Just about 23 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock, welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Now, since school resumed yesterday on September 5th, we are continuing the conversation about COVID-19 protocols in school. Up next, we have Rockers with your spotlight on Now.
As school opens back up, we are very, very interested in finding out the protocols for back to school when it comes to mask wearing, when it comes to COVID-19. The Ministry of Education has stated that it's not mandatory for students to wear masks back in school. However, pediatrician and president of the Pediatric Society of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Virendra Singh, who joins us this morning inside the Spotlight, has a little bit differing of a perspective. Good morning, Dr. Singh.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. All right, so I understand that you have a different perspective than the ministry when it comes to, are we mandatory wearing masks? You're saying that we should. It's not mandatory, but you're strongly suggesting it. Tell me why.
Well, I think that everybody has been given a choice in the setting today. I mean, it's not been mandatory anywhere in the world. I don't think after the world made it mandate for a while, and then everybody decided it's time to move on. And move on we must. We can't stay frozen in the way we were in, say, March to September of 2000, for those of us who wish to remember those days. We couldn't stay in that lockdown. Everybody's stuck in their house. Nobody could see anybody else except the people in their house. So it's time to move on. And a lot has been made available to the public. My belief is that the science out there has not gotten any news since, say, October to November. Vaccinations work, and vaccinations have now been made available for everybody from 5 to 11 years old in our setting. 5 to adults in our setting.
Right.
Wearing mask is still a personal choice. I still wear mask if I go out in public. And the reason I choose to do that and would think that in our setting, in our country, if I had a child, I would do it, is because between our infection rate and our vaccination rate, we've not managed to achieve anything close to, say, the 85 to 90% of what would be considered to be herd immunity. And we know even the herd immunity for COVID vaccine is not even perfect, because people with vaccination have gotten infection. People with infection have gotten reinfection. So the immunization from COVID-19 is not long lasting. So if I had a child that had to go to school, I would recognize a few things. Last term, children went back out to school for exams, and several, I wouldn't say it was, we could even count it on one or two hands. Several schools were closed down because of COVID-19 exposure within the schools and COVID-19 presence within the schools, even during that brief, limited time of reopening. So if I had a child today, I would advise my child a few things. One, you have to go to school. It's time to go to school. It's time to meet back some friends and socialize. That is important for your life. 2, go to school, focus on your schoolwork. 3, wear your mask as much as possible. 4, during break times, you are not to share food items, lunch items, and switch items with any of your friends. Wash your hands as often as you could. Sanitize if your hands cannot be washed. And don't touch your face after touching other objects without sanitizing or washing first.
And these are all the same basic rules that we have been given children even before. Before schools are open, back up, you're saying the same thing.
Only for 24, 25 months it's been out there.
we've been saying this, but you mentioned before the infection rate, and I'm curious as to what has it been recently regarding children especially, because, you know, we were on vacation, school was out, so children weren't fraternizing as much as they would in school. They would have been playing with you know, their friends and maybe some family along the vacation period and that kind of thing. But what have we been seeing in terms of the COVID-19 infection rates among children?
Well, remember, because of the COVID-19 centers, the places treating COVID-19 in the hospital where I am assigned through my job, um, we don't see the active infections as much. So they will get screened, and once screened positive, they would go to one of those centers initially. Um, but certainly we think of COVID-19 like this. I think of it like this. Children do get it. Children have gotten it. Children have gotten quite serious illness. I remember being on the phone, it was over 20 times one night, with a child who would have eventually ended up in my care, ended up in a complication where they sought my advice. And that was over 20 phone calls one night. And that child was sick. I mean, she was deathly ill. Okay, I had a very good colleague looking after her. And whatever the rates are, I think in the hospital that I am placed, there are a lot of children who we couldn't count it in two hands. So I could tell you more than 20 children who we've seen severe long-term complications of COVID, be it cardiac complications, be it gastro complications, be it neurological complications, and even one or two with autoimmune complications or autoimmune flare associated with their COVID. We've been seeing that. So regardless, you know, when you play the lottery and you win the lottery, you're always happy that you are the one rare one out of the everything who win the lottery. When you're out there and lightning strikes you, one poor individual who got struck by lightning, the same odds, but they're unlucky. So I wouldn't take a lottery with my child. I wouldn't take the risk with my child, and I would tell my child, these are the things I want you to do when you go to school. These are the things I need you to do.
Now,
And
now, Dr.
go
Singh,
on.
they say that school is but a microcosm of our society. And sometimes we see in society where, you know, those of us who decide, all right, we're not going to wear masks when we go out because we have that option to not wear the mask when we go out. And some people still chastise you and say, what are you wearing that for, boy? I imagine it would be 10 times worse in schools because, you know, children are children. So the ones who choose to not wear their masks, or who parents don't encourage them to wear masks, and versus the ones who are choosing to wear the mask, or who parents have been encouraging them to wear a mask. How do we even begin to navigate that part of the equation?
Sadly, that is a part of life and school life, and that's a part of, as you say, our own life. I, I speak to people who have decided to move on and say went away, and in airports and whatever, they get told, hey, you don't need that mask anymore. And then it really does become a personal choice. And, you know, I can't make my child do anything. I could strongly tell my child to do something, and in my presence, my child will have to do what I am asking them to do, at least until a certain age. But I could only tell them that this is what you needed, and this is what you're going to do, and this is what I would like you to do.
Yeah. Now, recently we saw that a child was reported as passing away from
Yes.
COVID-19.
Yes, it hasn't stopped and it will not stop. And I don't think anybody want their child to be that lottery next one.
So then, would you recommend that we you know, get more vaccines out to children? I believe that they're expiring. The batch that we have for the children between 5 and 11, I suppose, set to expire in October, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if I had a child who was going to turn 5 years old today, I would start getting my child vaccine to get that vaccine before it's thrown away.
But I mean, what about the parents who are concerned that, all right, well, this batch is almost about to expire? Is it still safe?
Um, Everything which is sold commercially from what I understand from commercial regulation, has to have a best before or a best by or use by date. Okay, the WHO early on in the pandemic had asked that a lot of the initial vaccines that were done not be discarded because there is a difference between evidence of efficacy, evidence of lack of efficacy, lack of evidence of efficacy. So hear that now, lack of evidence of efficacy and lack of evidence of lack of efficacy. So at the time, they did not have the evidence that beyond the date, the vaccines were either going to work or not going to work. All they know is that they mandated the manufacturer to put a best buy or best before day for those vaccines to be marketed.
Yeah.
So that evidence wasn't out there. And, I'd raise my hand. Sometimes I'll go in the grocery and I would see something that banded and it's cheaper. And yeah, I would buy it. I mean, and I'll still consume it 1 or 2 days. And this is food that I put into my system, yeah? I'll still consume it 1 or 2 days after the best before day, and it works. I mean, to me, well, I've not had any violent illnesses from it. Vaccines may be different because of the nature of a vaccine, and I understand and appreciate the concern.
Well,
But
yeah.
as I say,
I was about to say I feel it's like a little bit different because if your indigestion system can't take it, it will come out, right? But what happens when
you
you
would
take a
hope
vaccine?
so.
It
You
doesn't
would
it doesn't
hope
come
so,
out
but
the
we've
same way.
all eaten at some stage some food that got us violently sick. It didn't come out there, but it was trying to come out in a different way.
Most definitely. Dr. Singh, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing your thoughts. I mean, it sounds to me like you're saying a lot of things are still up in the air in terms of we don't know, so better safe than sorry.
Well, I think we know that at some stage, all of us going to be multiple times exposed to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And the chance of then getting that infection, yesterday I was talking to somebody, they went to the national fair, the agriculture fair, and about 20 of them came back in a group, and all of them were COVID positive within their group.
Mm.
It's still highly infectious, it's still going to go, and it will still travel within communities. So we will get exposed. We want to minimize our risk of infection after exposure.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Dr. Singh, and for sharing your views. And I wish you a very good day today.
Same to you. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Take care. That's Dr. Virendra R.S. Singh, the pediatrician and president of the Pediatric Society of Trinidad and Tobago, just sharing his thoughts with us in terms of children wearing masks in schools. He thinks it's very important that we still maintain mask wearing to prevent the spread of COVID-19 because better safe than sorry. We take a quick break and we come back with more inside the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned.